cause is about people who get injured at work, who believe that they have, because they've been injured at work, their employers and society should be able to look after them because they got injured at work through no fault of their own. They didn't go to work deliberately and get injured, and their injury impacts the way they're able to work or not work, impacts their livelihood, impacts their future, and affects their family members, their wives, their children, every possible. It just impacts your entire life when you get work. And they expect, people should expect that employers and the society should look after them because they were working for society. And so they find out that the Workers' Compensation Board in Ontario doesn't really look after them. They find out that the employers don't really care because if they can't work for me, I don't care about you anymore, so they quickly forget about you. And they find out that the government doesn't really care either because right now they care more about business and setting up business and making sure business makes money. So injured workers find out that they're alone and they don't have any resources. And the struggle is a single one. Initially you find out and you feel it's your fault. Right? Because it's your individual thing. You're to blame because that's what everybody tells you. But then you find other injured workers and you find out, well, wait a second, that happened to me and I didn't know about you and we have the same issues. I'm not getting anything from the compensation board.
Okay, everybody.
And they talk amongst each other, they find out they have common issues, common causes, common problems, and they come together and they find out that individually they can't do very much, but collectively as a group they can. So you get movement, you get an injured worker movement, you get injured worker groups who then come to the legislature and go to the Workers' Compensation Board and say we have been treated unfairly, we have been treated unjustly, it is not right, it is morally wrong, and you have to do something about it.
And do you have an idea about the number of these people that were injured?
Well, we know that across Canada, there's over 1 million people who are injured at work on every year. Now, that's not the real number. The real number is much higher than that because if you're a worker and you're not unionized, you don't have any protection. So you don't file a claim because you know if you say to your employer, I'm going to file a compensation claim, he's going to fire you or she's going to fire you because they don't want anything to do with that because that increased their costs. So we know that 1 million workers on paper, it's many more than that. And we also know that industrial occupational diseases, cancers, other kinds of things are not recorded, workplace injuries. So those are not recorded. The fatalities from that are not recorded. This is a huge problem. And it isn't, and so these people who are injured at work like that, it's a huge number, but that's just the tip of the iceberg, and we don't know. And lots of workers get discouraged. They don't get appeal. It's just like that. It's just a terrible situation.
And with this large number, what is the obstacle that they become united?
What's the obstacle?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. That's $1 million question.
Gotta do what I'm assigned for, doesn't it?
One of the things is workers don't know their rights. They don't, like Mariam Nazimi, you've talked to her. She didn't know about workers' compensation. It took her months and years to find out that she had a right. And then she found out that she wasn't covered. A lot of immigrant workers are new to Canada, they don't speak the language, they don't know the rights, the employers don't tell them their rights. And so when they get injured and they're fired, they don't know that they could have gone to a compensation board, or they could have gone and got something because as workers it's their right. So they don't know their rights, so they don't file, they don't know. Or their employers tell them that they don't have rights, they lie to them. And the government makes it or they make it really difficult. If you look at the Workers' Compensation Act right now, it's this thick. And nobody can understand it. If you're not a lawyer, you're not, so I mean it's like Greek or something, you know, you can't understand it. And so and you look at it and you go, there's nothing, and so you just say, so you just give up. So lots of people give up. Lots of people are told they don't know the rights. So you have all these, and then the final thing is fear. Injured workers are very fearful that if tomorrow, for example, here, lots of injured workers won't come here to the demonstration because they're afraid that somewhere up there they're going to be filmed. Workers' Compensation Board is going to film them, and they're going to see, and then they're going to say to them, "Well, you say you have a bad back, but I saw you at the demonstration. I saw you at the gathering. You must not have a bad back. Cut you off." So they're fearful for their lives, for whatever compensation monies they're getting for appearing, and so that fear really isolates people. So that keeps them in their homes, it keeps them in their basement apartments, it keeps them fearful. And when you're fearful, it's very hard to act.
What's the solution?
Well, the solution has always been for injured workers. Well, first of all, off the record, down with the capitalist system. But, I mean, Karl Marx, right? The solution is what these people have been doing for the longest time. Education, political education, getting people to understand that their private troubles are public issues. See, if I'm unemployed in a city or a town of 500 people, and I'm the only one that's unemployed, I think it's my problem, right? But if there are 100 people unemployed in a town of 500 people, well, it's not my problem. So you've got to be able to make the link and say, look, it's not your fault. It's the system's fault. There's something wrong here because there's 1 million people getting injured, so it's not your fault. So you've got to bring them out of the fear, bring them out of the isolation, and help them make connections between their private issues and the public, their private troubles and the public issues. And you bring people along, and it's a slow process because you have the main media, you have the Globe and Mail, you have National Post, and they're blaming workers left, right, and center for everything, right? And the WSIB is blaming workers for getting injured at work. Employers blame you for getting injured at work. So you think it's my fault. Getting out of that mindset, getting out of that being blamed and blaming yourself, and saying, no, it's not my fault. It's not my fault I got injured at work. It was the machinery's fault, it was the boss's fault. I was tired, I was being forced to work too fast. I'm older, I can't keep up. But how can that? You've got to be able to convince people that it's not their fault. And as individuals, if we don't have a lot of power, which most workers don't, the only way we have power is through collective organization. So you've got to get that message, and it's very, very difficult.
Can you introduce yourself?
Oh. I'm Robert Storey. I'm a professor of labor studies and sociology at McMaster University in Hamilton.
Thank you.
Thank you.